Hello, Indians fans. I'm Jeff Ellis of the Locked On Indians podcast, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to also be appearing over on the WKYC channel. I want to remind anyone who's checking out the show today, our show is brought to you by Built Bar. BuiltBar.com. Use promo code Locked On, get 10% off your order. It's what I have for breakfast every day. On today's show, I have a special guest, someone I've known for years who I think knows the Indians and Indians baseball as well as anyone. And with the Yankees playoff series just around the corner, I thought it'd be a great chance to have a special guest and have, in this case, Justin Lada of Indians Baseball Insider come on and talk.
Good to see you, Jeff. It's been a while since we got to talk. It's good to catch up, and hope you're doing well.
Yeah, it's always good talking baseball with you. Let's now be honest with me. Earlier in the day, did you really think the Indians were going to end up the 4 seed, or were you like me, where you thought this game was just against the Pirates done? The Indians were going to end up the 7th seed.
Yeah, I had 6-2. I pretty much threw it in the bag. I thought maybe their luck had kind of run out. I mean, how many times in a week can one team come back the way they have? That spends a lot of emotional energy for a team. So for them to do it again, I thought was pretty unlikely. So that was an interesting turn of events, the way Sunday's games unfolded.
Yeah, like I said, I was sitting there, had, Browns and Indians at points split screening it. And it was a surprise. I'm still not sure if it's the best outcome, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm not necessarily scared of the Yankees, but the Athletics were a team that had been scuffling leading into the final few weeks. Though, now I could be blanking wrong. Did the Athletics end up 2, or is it the Twins? Isn't it the Athletics?
I think the Athletics are 3 and the Twins are 2.
Okay. So it still might be a solid outcome either way. But, now that we've talked about Sunday's game a bit, why don't we just dive into the series? For me, I think, and everyone else out there, we're feeling pretty good about game 1. But, Justin, you've spent more time with the team, honestly, this year than I have, doing the writing and your post-game shows and everything else over on Indians Baseball Insider. What do you feel like are the things maybe that we should be more aware of that isn't coming up, or the things that you think might be overlooked in this short series?
I mean, a short series, there's always obviously a lot of chance for random variance. I think the biggest thing for the Indians is they have to catch the ball, right? Like, I mean, we've seen them make errors this year, whether it's throwing errors or base running errors. They made 2 errors today that led directly to Pirates runs. And this offense can't afford to have that against the Yankees. I mean, you want to give the Yankees extra outs? That's a bad recipe for a quick trip back home and some golf real quick in October. So I would say number 1, I mean, the offense is what it is. They're not a good offense. They struggled to hit this year. I just think that if the Indians are going to have a chance to win the series, they have to go out and play a clean game. So absolutely no base running mistakes and no errors, I think, is number 1. Because I think what you're going to get out of the pitching, right? Like you have a pretty good idea what Shane Bieber is going to give you Tuesday. You have a good idea what you're going to get from Carlos Carrasco and Zach Plesac. And the bullpen to an extent, even though there's a little more question marks out there. But I think for me, defense and base running mistakes have to be totally eliminated for them to have a chance in the series. You cannot afford to give away outs and give extra outs to the Yankees.
So my mind always goes a bit conspiratorially, and I don't know if you've thought about this as well after I bring it up. Do you think that the Yankees, in some regards, might be the team that is best set up to hit someone like Shane Bieber or Zach Plesac, might know them better because they have Matt Blake, who was the Indians' pitching coordinator last year? Do they have more inside information on this pitching staff than maybe any other team in baseball?
The Matt Blake thing is interesting. You're right. I didn't consider that before. The Matt Blake thing could be really interesting. That could really give them some insights I didn't think that they would have had. So that's going to be something to watch for sure. I mean, they're probably set up to hit anybody, right? Like, they're a boom or bust team. They're going to hit home runs or they're not going to score. That's how the Yankees have played for how long now? I think the only thing that's going for the Indians is they don't walk people. Like, Shane Bieber doesn't walk anybody. Zach Plesac doesn't walk anybody, save for one weird 3-start stretch this year. Carlos Carrasco doesn't walk anybody. So the Yankees will have to beat them with solo home runs, right? That's as good as it's going to get with the Yankees. If they're going to hit their home runs, you need them to be solo home runs so you can have a chance, especially the Indians offense. But the Matt Blake theory is definitely interesting. I did not consider that. Bieber has added the cutter this year, and his curveball is different than it was a yeyear ago. And I would say Zach Plesac's slider is better than it was a year ago. So those are two things that kind of factor in. But the Matt Blake thing, that could have a chance to loom a lot larger than I would have guessed.
Now, we know the Indians can't compare with the Yankees when it comes to lineup. I over here on my secondary setup, I've got the Yankees lineup in front of me. And for as good as even, I had my concerns with Clint Frazier, let's say before the trade deadline when everyone wanted to acquire him, but he did play very well this year, and he's not even necessarily, he played every day this week except for Sunday, but he's had a few days off here and there. They still have Gardner, Aaron Hicks, who was among the league leaders in walks on top of his defensive ability. And you're just looking at someone like Judge. I'm trying to think who the DH is off the top of my head. Oh yeah, Stanton. So it's clearly the Yankees and their money have the advantage in that lineup. But is it safe to say that definitely among the starters, I think in a 3-game series, the Indians have an advantage, but might they have an advantage in the pen? I didn't think the Indians' pen would be as steady as it has been, but when you look at kind of their back end grouping, and what do you think Tristan McKenzie will bring? Do you think he becomes the kind of the guy with Karinchak? Does this maybe lead to less of Phil Maton or Nick Wetgren in those late innings? Do you think they'll go with the young guy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the whole reason they put him out there is to use him. So you want to throw him out there and leverage him the best you can, because I think he does work in the bullpen. I think his stuff works in the bullpen. He's looked good both times out of there so far. So that could be a great bridge for them. My only concern is with McKenzie is how many times is he going to pitch in a 3-game series? I think there's almost zero chance he pitches back-to-back games, right? Is he going to pitch in game 1 and 3? Because that would still be a lot for him. Remember, this is a guy that, as you well know, Jeff, didn't pitch last year and was hurt a lot in 2018 and has injury concerns. So how much are they going to get out of him in the playoffs? Like, I think they showed this week that he pitched Wednesday and Saturday against the White Sox and Pirates. That's his start day and his side day that he pitched those 2 games. So those are 2 days they can count on from him. But in a 3-game series, I don't think you're going to see him more than once. So when do you use him? Like, he's kind of your, push the eject button and your safety valve. Like, you go to him, it's the only time you can do it. You're breaking case of glass. They have other good options. I think Cal Quantrill has been really good. I'd like to see more of him. And I still trust Nick Whitgren and obviously James Karinchak, but you're going to need James Karinchak to get, are you going to ask him to get 6 outs? Because that's not something he's done. I guess their hopes are probably to have every starter go at least 6 or 7 innings. Because if they have to come after 5, like I said, you have breaking case of glass, Tristan McKenzie once in the Yankee series. And then are you asking James Karinchak to get 6 outs? Because that's not something he's done. And Brad Hand's been better than I thought he would have been all year. He's been, I don't know how he's got it done, but it wasn't a fluke. The underlying metrics suggest that he's as good as he has been, which is a surprise to me.
Yeah, with Karinchak, I guess my concern with him is always having spent time around him in the minors. He is maybe they use the expression a creature of habit. Like, I don't think I've ever known a player in my time interviewing who is more of a, very pattern based. Like, he is someone who I have to do A, B, and C before I do D. And I do have concerns about that idea of someone who is very much kind of set in his ways. It's probably the expression I'm looking for. What that, trying to have him change what he is used to in a playoff situation feels like that could lead to trouble. And I guess the other guy we haven't even talked about is Savali and what is his role. He has been a little bit weaker of late in his performances. I think 3 of his last 4 starts were a little bit below what is come to be expected. At the start of the year, he was looking for about the first month and a half like one of the top 20 starters in the American League. And now he's not even on this first round as a starter. Do you think they lean on him more? Are they more just they don't know what to do with him? I guess for me, he's probably the biggest pitching wild card in the entire series.
Yeah, the Yankees series, I don't know how much you're going to see him. He hasn't pitched out of the bullpen since college, and I just don't see his arsenal as something that works in the bullpen. Like, he's not a hard thrower. He's got 5 or 6 pitches. Is he going to come out of the bullpen and try to throw his 2 or 3 best pitches and just call it like there? Or is he going to be a guy who goes out there and tries to throw every pitch? Because in a short window, you don't have time to get a feel for all your pitches. And I don't think that plays well in the bullpen. Like I said, he might throw 94. That might work, but Savali, to me, his best approach is throwing the kitchen sink. He throws nicks his entire arsenal up, and I don't know how much that works in the bullpen. So I don't know how they're going to use him. I really don't. I don't know if it's a great fit. I think he's more of an emergency option in the bullpen more than anything. So he's on the roster.
Before we get into the individual games, I just want to take a second and thank the fantastic sponsors that keep this podcast going. One of our fantastic sponsors today is BuiltBar.com. Talked about them at the top of the show. Built Bar is honestly what I have for breakfast every day. They gave us a free sample, and from there, I've now become a client of theirs. I'm always buying new products. They just released their brand new flavors and their relaunch in August. So if you are curious to check out Built Bar, go to BuiltBar.com, use the promo code Locked On. You can keep using that code. It gets 10% off. If you're someone who loves pumpkin, they're currently doing pumpkin chocolate chip as one of their flavors to check out and try. Again, it's a product I use. It's not just something I sell because it's here. It's a product I have familiarity with and that I use daily. Our other fantastic sponsor is Ohio vs. Everyone today. Our other fantastic sponsor is Ohio vs. Everyone. It is a blog that is specifically for your Ohio-based teams. You know, right now, if you go to ESPN, you're going to see this entire Indian series, probably more about the Yankees. It's a bigger market, and it makes sense to do that. If you don't want that slant, if you want to hear about the Indians and be Indians focused, go check out Ohio vs. Everyone today. Matt over there is someone who I've known for years. He knows the history of the Indians as well as anyone. Lots of in-depth knowledge. Go check it out. Ohio vs. Everyone today. You won't regret it. And it's a great way to not get annoyed when you go and read an article on the Indians postseason matchup that's 95% about the Yankees and 5% about the Indians. And they probably forget to mention that Jose Ramirez is an MVP candidate, because if you've been watching anything of late, that's all the national slant is for getting Jose Ramirez. Okay, so let's talk about this matchup because, we have to talk about it here, because if we don't, no one will. Again, it's, if you're an Ohioan, you're pretty much used to that you're going to get second fiddle. And again, it makes sense. It's a smaller market. Of course, if you want the most hits, you're going to talk about the Yankees. We understand that. But as Ohioans, as Indians fans, you want to find a good in-depth source. And that's part of what this podcast is going to provide. So it looks like game one, Shane Bieber versus Garrett Cole. Coming into this year, everyone thought Garrett Cole for the Cy Young. I was very much a hold your horses. He's had 2 good years with the Astros and was kind of mediocre before that. Had one great season and some good ones. Would it be fair to say it's been a disappointing year for him?
I would say so. I did talk to someone who covers the Yankees the other day, and they said he's been just as good. He had some bad starts against the Rays and the Orioles, so maybe he's not been as bad as the numbers suggest. I mean, he's still a top 30 starter in baseball, and that's pretty good. And I mean, is he worth the contract he got? Probably not, because he's not putting up the numbers he did a year ago. He's given up more home runs, which is odd. And I thought, someone told me the other day he's given up a lot of home runs this year. I had to look. And actually, I would have thought a lot of those home runs would come in New York, because, New York's ballpark. But he's had home run problems on the road, which really surprised me. So I would have to say he's probably not lived up to expectations for his first year. 2.84 ERA and a 3.89 FIP. That's, a full run and a half, almost worse than he was a year ago, which is, like you said, Jeff, that's closer to his Pirates numbers.
Yeah, and I just looked over to pull it up. I was curious about home run rate, because I knew that was the issue as well with him, that 1.23, a little bit over 1 home run per 9 innings. This year he's up to 1.73. So, and that's a significant increase. While it doesn't seem huge, because I'm talking about like half of a home run in the grand scheme of that percentage, I mean, that's like a 40% increase from a year ago. And there can be variance in that can be just bad luck, especially in a short season. But I feel very confident in game one. Yes, things can easily get away from the Indians, but this year with Shane Bieber, we've gotten used to some great pitching performances over the past few years. I feel like for the longest time, I did not get to experience great pitching. And then we had Sabathia's run to Cliff Lee, to Corey Kluber, Even, Bauer and Carrasco and players like that at their peaks were amazing. Is Shane Bieber's season the best you've seen? I feel like for me it is. I'm curious if it's either that or it's the Cliff Lee season. To me, those are the two greatest pitching seasons I've seen.
It's got to be the best. Look at the numbers. I mean, the on base. He's the first MLB pitching Triple Crown winner in over 10 or 15 years. I think the last one I saw today was Johan Santana. It's been a long time since anybody's won the MLB Triple Crown for pitching. And I know it's a short season, but man, look what the guy was on pace to do for a full year. I think the only thing that stinks is we didn't get to see 32 starts out of him. That would have been incredible, the run he was on. I don't know. It doesn't get better, which is amazing to me because you're right. Corey Kluber's 2017 was ridiculous, and that was with a terrible April through a back injury. And then his 2014 was good. But, yeah, this might be the best, which is hard to believe, right?
Yeah, it's just been unbelievable. I brought up on the show on Friday, when was the last time, would the Indians or should the Indians have the Cy Young, the MVP, and the Rolaids relief winner, only to realize that they canceled the Rolaids relief award that hasn't existed since 2013 or 2012. But it did lead to some interesting questions because I think they would have a candidate in all of those. And that's only happened twice in the history of those three awards where, yes, it can't happen anymore because it doesn't exist. But Brad Hand would be in that group as well. So you're looking at for all the Indians' issues this year, they're kind of an elite company when you look at some of those top end players. Again, I just you can't say enough about Jose Ramirez and what he's done. And Brad Hand, I was pretty much left for dead at the start of the year, if I'm being honest. I don't know what happened. I know you talked about it a little bit. Have you seen a change? Because it felt like before the season started, he just looked like he was done. I didn't think there was any way his option would get picked up. I didn't think he would be the closer by the end of July. And instead, he might have been the best. It's either him or Liam Hendricks for the highest WAR at the end of the year amongst relievers.
I didn't even really look at some of the advanced measures for Hand. I did earlier today on StatCast, but I don't know what happened. Like, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I started looking and I was like, okay, there has to be something he's changed. Like, is his arm slot back up? Because last year his arm slot fell due to, having a tired shoulder, and his arm slot has not changed. His release point is still as low as it was a year ago when he claimed to have a tired arm. And so I was like, okay, so he didn't fix that. He's not throwing harder. He's back to 91, 92. He's been 93 a little bit this week, but that's a top for him. It's just command. That's all it really is. Like, he's throwing the slider to both sides of the plate. He's staying out of the middle of the zone with the fastball and slider, and he's getting ahead. And that's all it really is. I suppose the slider is still a pretty elite pitch for him. Like, it still has good spin. It still has a crazy amount of movement as far as the shape of it, the vertical drop and the horizontal movement. But it's nothing like, elite as far as other pitchers are concerned. But he's just commanding it well. And that makes you feel good, right? Like, that's more sustainable than trying to get by on, the Bob Wickman or Joe Borowski school of closing games. So, yeah, I thought for sure something would have had to change. But no, it's just, it looks to me like it's just, he's got good command.
So I think game one, we both feel pretty comfortable. Game two, Carrasco versus Tanaka. Tanaka's been himself. I feel like he's been a solid, steady arm, and there's a lot of value in that. But I think this is another one where the Indians have the pitching matchup going in. Carrasco, I think, has been better, especially over the last month, than most people expect. I know back in July, I even talked about it. Like, I wondered if maybe he'd be in the pen by this time in the year, just because of, natural aging curve. And it's been about a year since his cancer diagnosis, and that, he lost a whole season in his 30s. That's not easy to recover from, let alone coming back from cancer. He's an unbelievable story. He's one of those guys where when you look at his overall story at how many years, you got to wonder if he's going to be like a potential number retiree down the line for the Indians, because he's still here for a few more. But Carrasco versus Tanaka, do you feel like that's an advantage, at least pitching wise? Because we know, like I said, lineup wise, it's never going to be an advantage for the Indians. So they need that pitching advantage. What's your thought on that matchup in game two?
I still go back to, and I know it's not fair to do this because the lineup has changed, but you remember the 2017 ALDS, the Indians had a terrible time against Tanaka. They were chasing splitters in the dirt. which is right up his game plan. And Lindor and Ramirez were terrible in that series, outside of Lindor's grand slam game 2. I'm trying to think who was in the lineup at that point. Santana was still here, but I don't know who else is left over from that era, honestly, which is crazy because it's only 3 years ago. But
Perez would have been on the bench then, at least. I don't know if he started in that one, but he would have been a bench bat in that series.
He did play in game 5, I want to say, because I remember him hitting a home run in game 5. Or no, I'm sorry, game 4 in New York. It was a home run in New York. But yeah, I look at his arsenal and it concerns me from a hitting standpoint. Like Carrasco will be fine. Like I said, I think there's a high degree of confidence in knowing what you're going to get from all 3 starters in this series. I think the Indians have a good idea. I don't expect any 3 of them. These are my, I'll probably, this will be freezing cold takes a week from now when one of them struggles. But I feel like there's a high degree of confidence that you're going to get a quality start. You're going to
had a quick technical issue, so I'm just going to throw it back to Justin now.
I think you're going to see a quality start from each of the 3 Indian starters in the series. To me, I think it's just Tanaka presents a bad matchup for the Indians lineup. Like, who's the only guy in the lineup you feel like is going to hit him? Is it Ramirez has been great this year, so maybe he will. Tyler Naquin is usually pretty good against guys who throw off-speed stuff low in the zone. So maybe that will be good for him. But of course, if you're chasing Tanaka out of the zone, that's what he wants you to do. He doesn't want you to hit strikes. So it's going to be a tough matchup. Like I said, I feel good about the Indians' 3 starters. I don't know how I feel about the Indians lineup against Tanaka specifically because of his arsenal and the past against him. So that kind of gives me a pause for game 2.
It is interesting where the Indians might do better against the flamethrower of Devi Garcia in game 3 than the drunk baller in game 2. It's not what you expect to hear, but we both spent time around Akron, both got a chance. Did you get to see Devi when he was in Scranton at all?
I did not see him in Scranton. No, I did hear a lot about him.
So, my personal experience is I got to see him like once in Scranton, and he was, phenomenal. But the concern is always that if you looked at him wrong, you thought he was a little leaguer. Like, he is a very small, slight pitcher. It's kind of amazing the velocity he's been able to generate this year. Have you seen him at all in the majors or anything? Do you have a kind of a take on Devi Garcia for fans who are completely unfamiliar with the Yankees rookie?
Yeah, he's not a big guy. It's really that curveball, right? Like, that curveball for him is a double plus pitch, and he can throw it for strikes. He can bury it in the zone. It's going to be tough. The Indians are going to – you can't eliminate it because he can throw it in any count. It's a great pitch for him. It's just they're going to have to try to – I don't want to say eliminate it. That's the wrong word. But they're going to have to try to seek out when he's not going to throw it, because I don't know if that's a pitch you can hit. I'd have to look at pitch values this year. But I think his curveball and his few starts this year has been one of his better pitches. Actually, the fastball's been better for him this year if you go by weighted pitch values, which is a surprise. Maybe you're right. Maybe the fastball is better than I thought it was. But
it's it's like a 99, 98 pitch. It's one of those like high end fastballs. It is interesting that in spite of the curveball and the fastball, his strikeout per 9 is about 8.5. So he's not missing a ton of bats with it. I mean, the 8.5 is good, but that's not what you expect with that stuff. Go look at the Indian staff. I mean, even Carrasco, who a lot of people don't think is a strikeout pitcher, is like 10.5 Ks per 9 this year. I want to say it's a surprising number to look at. But yeah, the Indians as a team on the whole, there's a lot of free swingers, so I'll be curious to see against this pitching staff. But it's in general, I don't know. Like I said, it's the Indians have to win this one through their pitching, basically, right? It's got to be pitching and a big moment. It's kind of got to be what we saw almost in that White Sox series, where it was just pitching held on until hitting could produce that moment.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how sustainable what they did this week is going to be. At least it gives them a degree of confidence that they can come back. But, I mean, they know what's in the Yankees bullpen. You know what's out there. Roldis Chapman's out there. Zach Britton's out there. Adam Ottavino's had a terrible year. Even though
like he's been hurt, right?
Ottavino? Maybe.
Did he have points where he's been hurt? No, Ottavino.
Oh, yeah.
Chad Green's
He
been
might have been.
great. I know I talked about back when the Yankee, and this is why too. Like everyone was like, "Oh, let's trade Clevenger for Clint Frazier," and I was like, "This series is exactly." And I know Clevenger's hurt now, but you can't predict it. It's with Clevenger, it's always freak injuries. It's not predictable things. This is exactly why the Indians did not trade him to an American League team. And Chad Green was the guy I said if they were going to trade him to the Yankees, that was the guy I wanted to target. So I mean, their pen, they even have the advantage in the pen. So and that's when you can spend like the Yankees, you're always going to have the advantage. So it's just going to be, I think to run into the Yankees in the opening round is probably the best place to face them in this short series with having the pitching staff the Indians have. I mean, a lot of places considered the Yankees to be the AL favorites to start the year. I know if you listen to the podcast, my World Series pick was Rays versus Dodgers. That still looks good. We'll see if I can hold on with that. But this Yankees team it's crazy. You even lineup wise, you go and you look. Like I said, I was just looking at their bench with guys like Mike Tauchman, who's the year isn't as great as it's been in years past, but he would still start for the Indians any day. Clint Frazier has been in and out of their lineup. They've got just depth for days, and that's the Yankees' advantage. When you can spend, like, the Indians can't make up for misfires. If they sign a free agent and they stink, they're stuck with them. If they don't develop a position, say the outfield right now, where they've not developed, I always talk about that the top WAR outfielders for the Cleveland Indians have developed since 2000. It's like Luke Scott is number one. Ryan Church is number two. I'm trying to remember the full list, but it's the Indians have to then trade to fill those whole gaps. The Yankees can just keep signing players, and I know that's why everyone, while most media is going to be about the Yankees in this matchup, everyone who is not a Yankees fan is an Indians fan this week, which is also kind of nice.
Yeah, that'll make it fun for sure. I don't think the Yankees bullpen is as good as it was in 2017. I mean, they did have that one freak comeback, right? The game Lindor hit the grand slam, and that was off of Chad Green, and they had Dellin Betances. It's still a good bullpen. It's not, and this is not an Indians offense that you want to consistently be trailing in a game. Like that's how it worked in 2016. And I know circumstances were different in 2016, but they got out to early leads. They pitched well. That's what the Indians did well in 2016, and it carried them. And they don't have the same bullpen they had in 2016, obviously, but the rotation's healthier now and better than it was at the time of the playoffs in 2016. You lean on that a little bit harder. Everybody was going two times through the order in 2016 besides Kluber. Well, now you have three starters that can go three times through the order. Aaron Savali probably is a two times through the order kind of starter, and then you go to someone else behind him. But you lean on the starters more. You manage to what your strength is, and if you can get a starter three times through in a lead, and you only need Karinchak, McKenzie, or Whitgren in hand, that's a good formula as long as you're playing from in front, I think.
Yeah,
this is going to get.
Just looking at the Yankees team, I was kind of curious just about their injury status. And I mean, that's one of the advantages the Indians have right now is the pen is a bit weaker because Tommy Kaline has Tommy John, and former Indian prospect Ben Heller has a nerve injury. Not, even to focus on the fact that if they had all of their starters healthy, this series would probably go Garrett Cole, Luis Severino, and then James Paxton in Game 3. You wouldn't even see Tanaka or Devi Garcia if that was the case. So there's some advantages. I mean, on the Indian side of things, the two things I kind of think about with this is, one, how nice it would be to have Emmanuel Clase. What a difference to the back of the pen that would be, A. And B, I just keep thinking about 2017 where I wanted to see Carrasco get 2 starts. He had been arguably the Indians' best pitcher down the stretch. Kluber probably was still the better of the two, but Carrasco had been one of the top 5 pitchers in the American League. I think sometimes people don't realize 2017, like I think he finished like 4th, 5th, or 6th in the Cy Young. He had been phenomenal that year, and for some reason he only got that one game. So I'm kind of hoping this will be the carryover from him having to not getting that other appearance. And he was great in the one game he got in the postseason. I believe that was one of the wins in 2017, if I am correct. So
that was the game they lost 1-0.
That's what it was. See,
that was the game where Greg Bird hit the home run off of Andrew Miller.
Okay, yeah. So I am wrong, but you have better memory, and I'll tell you. Sometimes but doesn't 1-0. So again, he was obviously fantastic in that one. So yeah, I think about now my defense, that 2017 series, that happened literally as I was having my first kid. I think it was like game
That's
one or
right.
two was was in the middle of that. So that whole series is kind of a blur. I didn't get to watch all those games. I didn't really get to sleep then. So I at the end when I came out of that first few weeks of first parenting, it was definitely a point where I'm like, well, I guess I didn't miss too much.
Yeah, I think you have a valid excuse for
Yeah,
sure.
and that was fun. So I guess here's my question: what's your take? Indians in 3, Yankees in 2. It's 3-game series is something new for all of us.
Yeah, I don't know. What you were saying earlier, I kind of think that maybe it would have been better to catch them in a 5-game series because once they get to the bubble in San Diego in a 5-game series, there's no off days. So, you can't leverage your starters. You can't put starters in the bullpen. You can't pitch relievers and then have a day off in between. So maybe the Indians would have had more of an advantage because their pitching is a little bit deeper from the starting side. So the 3-game series to me, I think benefits the Yankees a little bit more. It's a weird year. I don't know. I'm going to say Indians in 3. I know I shouldn't say that, but like I feel like the Yankees firepower is a lot, but um, they're having a weird week and anything can happen. They're playing at home. I think they'll get to Garrett Cole in game 1 and they'll find a way to win one more game.
I think I'm going to go with Yankees in 3 just to be the opposite. I do feel like this is a 3-game series. I think you and I both have the same thought that you trust in Bieber in 1 and junk ball pitchers are just the bane of this team's existence in game 2. So it just comes down to which Zach Plesac do we get? Like he is the fulcrum of this. And watch now, there won't even be a game 3 because I'm calling him the fulcrum of the post of this series. And since I've stated that, the series won in 2 games now. Which, if it does end in 2 games, I would think advantage Indians because again, Shane Bieber is otherworldly this year. But I feel like Plesac, we have seen him be Zach Plesac of a year ago, and then we've seen him be a guy who can rival Bieber. I don't know what he is entirely. I mean, I remember watching him at Ball State be an outfielder and a pitcher, and I was a fan of his, and I wrote up that draft pick that year and was very excited about him. But what he has become is beyond. I mean, even with Bieber, any of these guys, it's you feel like somehow the Indians are doing something in the lab somewhere that is allowing them. But the jump Plesac made this year, I can't describe, I can't understand, I can't explain. But if he is at peak performance, he's been at his best. Could one say he's been one of the top 5 pitchers in the American League when he is on?
Yeah, I mean he's been that good. I actually think Plesac matches up really well with the Yankees. I have to look. I'm totally basing this off of their lineup right now. Like I'm trying to go find the splits real quick while we're talking, but they have a very right-handed heavy lineup, and his slider has been devastating to right-handed hitters. You see what he did to the White Sox this year. I think he presents a really nice matchup for the Indians against the Yankees because that slider is really good against right-handers, and they're very right-handed heavy. I think they have.
It's just Gardner and Tauchman or Touch. I'm sure I'm probably butchering it. Everyone who listens to this regularly knows my pronunciation is terrible, but I think those are really their only 2 lefties of note.
Yeah, Hicks is a switch hitter. I suppose they would probably start Tauchman against a lefty, but yeah, it's Brett Gardner and Aaron Hicks and Tauchman are the only guys that play regularly.
But if you play Tauchman, if you don't take out Gardner, are you taking out Aaron Judge for him or Stanton for Tauchman?
Not Aaron Hicks. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. So yes. Yeah, they don't have a lot of options against a right-handed pitcher. So I think that really benefits Zach Plesac at the very least. I don't know how it benefits anybody else, but I think that makes him a good matchup for them.
And we were talking about it during one of the pauses in this. I don't know how many Indians fans realize that like Stanton and Judge haven't been the guys this year. It's DJ LeMahieu, who was a scrap heap signing almost for them a year ago. And Luke Voit, who that Luke Voit deal has been ridiculous to watch. I don't know how much you've paid attention to this, but when that happened with the Cardinals, it was like the Cardinals got hosed, the Yankees won the deal. Voit struggled last year, and the pieces from that deal became central parts of the Cardinals bullpen. Now this year, Voit ended up leading the league in home runs. I'm going to say, I haven't checked in the last few days, but he had a pretty significant lead. So it's this deal where both teams got value, but it's been swinging back and forth each way. So if you are an Indians fan, you're not familiar with the Yankees this year, Voit has been the guy to watch out for. And then, just old friend alerts. Clint Frazier, we talked about, he's been almost an everyday player for them. Gardner's been taking more off days. Gardner Frazier has almost been a platoon at points, so that'll be something to watch out for. And Gio Urshela, I don't know what to tell people with him. I was never an Urshela guy, just in general, because he didn't walk and he struck out a bunch. He didn't have any power, so I don't know what happened there, other than some kind of dark magic, much like what happens with the Indians pitching. But with Ben Heller out, it's just those two guys, and Matt Blake, who we talked about at the start in terms of old friends alert, people to pay attention to. You might have remembered from the time in Cleveland.
I'm with you on Urshela. I always go back to this. People always want to point out how good Urshela is, and I'm totally with you. Like, yeah, great defender and good guy, nice player, but zero kind of approach at the plate, right? Like, he tried to throw his bat at everything and he made contact with everything, but the quality of contact was so poor. And then he got to Toronto after the Indians DFA'd him, and Toronto cut him, and then he was in the minor leagues, and then the Yankees picked him up, and then the Yankees cut him, or I should say designated him for assignment. He cleared waivers, so it took 3 times through waivers before he finally broke out. Like, yeah, the Yankees figured something out with him. I think it was his lower half, someone said a year ago, but he was DFA'd 3 times, once by the Yankees even before this happened. So it wasn't like the Indians missed out on something like crazy that was obvious. Like, did the Yankees do a better job helping him with his mechanics at the plate or something? Yeah, obviously they did. That's something the Indians struggle with. But, I mean, it's a little fluky, no? Like, he got cut 3 times.
It's not like a Yandy Diaz where we all saw him in the minors and go, this guy can just get on base. Like, we saw the skills there. Like you said, I mean, Urshela, he looked like, I thought the comp high-end Urshela was going to be Jack Hanahan. Like, that was, to me, his high-end comp in the minors. And, I mean, I was wrong, and I'm often wrong. I'm very honest about that. But, yeah, I don't think this is not one of those, or even if you want to go old school, this isn't a Brandon Phillips situation you can hold over the Indians. If you're going to compare it to any former Indian situation, it's Jeremy Guthrie, where the opportunities were given and someone figured out a way to make it work. There's certain players you can get mad about. I don't think Urshela is one of them.
Still haven't lost in the last 2 years in Madden.
Yeah, there's no one who does prospecting is hitting 300. That just doesn't happen. No. So I was wrong on Urshela too, and I've been wrong on other guys too. But no one's hitting 300 on prospecting ever.
No, I'm still waiting on Cord Phelps to prove me right. He's gonna. It's okay. You can trade Kip to this because Cord Phelps is just as good. That was one of my hot takes back in the day. So I'll just, ruin my credibility with that one. But I was not alone in the Cord Phelps love. It's been great talking with you. I appreciate you taking the time and dealing with all the foibles as I tried to do this video thing for the first time. It's a fun experience. And again, first person I went to when I was like, okay, I need someone to talk to. Justin knows his stuff. And again, thank you for having me on. Why don't you take a second and tell where they can find your Twitter and your articles and everything else?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, Jeff. So you can find Indians Baseball Insider at official_IBI. You can go to IndiansBaseballInsider.com. You can follow me at JL_baseball. We're doing post games after we did them. I want to say about 50 of them this year after each Indians game. We did almost all of them on Periscope on Twitter. We'll do them throughout the playoffs as long as that lasts. And, we're there when the season's over. We'll be talking 2021 and we'll be talking prospects for next year too. And we never get tired of the offseason. There is no offseason at IBI. You know that, Jeff.
Oh, that's where I started. I know quite well. I mean, we got to add Nolan Jones and Eli Morgan this offseason to the 40-man. We can just
yeah, Carlos Vargas, another one. Yeah,
some Gabriel Arias from the Clevenger
right.
trade. There's, like I said, for some of us, baseball just always goes. But again, thank you so much for joining me on this inaugural video episode of the Locked On Indians podcast. I've been Jeff Ellis, your host. You can find me on Twitter at JeffMLBDraft. if you're watching this, I'll have my way too early mock out on Monday. It's won't have the Indians because it's always just the teams that were eliminated. It's like, hey, I'm sorry, your team doesn't get to play anymore. Here's something for you. And then as teams get eliminated, I'll add to it. So eventually you can see what I think the Indians will do in there. But thank you again. Remember to listen, download, rate, and review. That all helps us so much. And as always, go Tribe.